morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with Aruba InstantOn. Today's host is Jason Bergeson. He is their Channel System Manager, also known as their Master Trainer, and Austin Gilliam, the Business Development Manager, both of whom will be presenting today. Jason and Austin, thank you both so much for being with us today. And at the end of today's presentation, we will have questions. Thank you so much for your time. I am finished for now. Please go ahead and take it on over.
Awesome, Julie, thank you so much. And thank you so much for having us today and sharing this time with you so that way we can talk about our new solutions that we have around InstantOn. We did a webinar with Microcom about maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Time flies in the midst of the pandemic for sure. But definitely reference that webinar because that's going to be building on top of that material. I'm going to be touching briefly on what some of the stuff that we talked about in that previous webinar in this one. But really, what I'm excited to talk about today is not only from a business perspective, what does it look like in the midst of a pandemic, but really some new products that we've added to enhance the overall portfolio of InstantOn. And some really big announcements within that new product set is some pretty big game changers within the small business environment, where we are proud to say that we're the first at offering some of these really new cool technologies within the lineup as well. So here's the agenda today. We're first going to talk about some small business trends and challenges, and challenges are aplenty in the midst of the world that we live in today for sure. And how does that look like going forward? We're going to do a brief InstantOn overview and what InstantOn looks like from a differentiation perspective. And then we're going to talk about the brand new AP22 access point and why that is such a huge game changer in the Wi-Fi world when it comes to small business. We're going to go over some really cool, unique features that product supports. We're also going to talk about our brand new 1930 switches that we announced over the summertime and the benefit of how that expands the overall functionality in the portfolio of InstantOn. Really provides great wired connectivity for our customers that need that. And then we're going to go over some warranty and support services. Depending on our time, I will jump into the application, the app on my phone, and show you what InstantOn actually looks like. We'll go over some of the features inside the application, show you some information that would be beneficial to you, and I'm going to hand it over to Austin, and Austin is going to have some promotions that we currently have going on. And just like Julie said, at the end of all of this, if you have any questions, feel free to ask during the session today, and we'll get to those questions towards the end to make sure that you get all the information that you need. So definitely we have some challenges today, right? Back when we took a look and set out for the year and we had all of our plans, if I was to tell you how the business would have looked, 9 months ago today, it would have been completely different, right? No one could have ever have anticipated the world and the environments that we're in right now, but as a culture, we've adapted extremely well to the environment, and we've definitely leveraged technology in order to do that. And really, in the midst of all of this, we have determined that technology is now needed more than it ever was. It's just kind of changed in the way that we're deploying. It's definitely adapted to working from home environment or maybe outdoor connectivity. There's lots of different ways that we can deploy technology to be useful in today's environments, as well as when we return to a new normal where things seem relatively back to the way they were, how we can leverage that technology in the midst of all that as well. So here's some really cool numbers. I'm a big numbers guy, so I like to look at the numbers. It gives us a good idea of kind of where we are currently. And these numbers haven't changed because of COVID. So let's take a look at the first one. 68% have a focus on investing in replacing outdated IT infrastructure in 2020. And I would be very, very, I would say that this number is actually lower because of COVID, right? We see an enhanced awareness around technology and how we are conducting business today because we have to leverage technology. You think of a restaurant now when you walk into it and you scan a QR code to get to the menu, or through mobile ordering of that restaurant, or potentially even that curbside pickup when you go and pick up your food. If they didn't have great wireless connectivity or a way to manage that network, how would they be able to do business? And absolutely, that number is most likely increased since the beginning of the year. 35% have a focus on investing in technology to combat increased security threats. And this kind of goes hand in hand, right? If we're doing a lot more over our wireless networks, it's absolutely crucial to make sure that the data that we're transmitting on that network is secure and it's encrypted. And if we're going to offer things like a guest Wi-Fi access, we need to make sure that that guest experience is good, but it's also secure and it's away from our employees, employee devices. We want to make sure all the devices that connect to the network are as secure as possible. So that way we can feel good about the data that's being transmitted. And absolutely 35% have a focus on investing technology to combat increased security threats. 44% plan to use IT automation tools. And one of the big key differentiators I'm going to go about here in just a little bit with InstantOn is we want to make it simple to deploy and set up. In fact, we take advantage of cloud management, and through an application on a phone or through our desktop web portal, we can actually set up a full InstantOn deployment in a matter of minutes because we can take advantage of automation. And when we push configuration down, it doesn't matter whether you have one access point or 25 access points deployed in a solution. You make that configuration change once and all of that automatically applies to the others in the site. So we make it extremely easy to provide configuration changes, updates, and all network monitoring and management from an application on your phone from anywhere in the world. 35% of the total IT spend would be allocated to a hardware refresh for small businesses. This kind of goes hand in hand with that first number as well. This number is definitely increasing because we're more aware, whether we're dealing with small business environments where you have things like outdoor waiting areas or curbside pickup or mobile ordering, but we're also looking at the work from home environment, right? A lot of us are working from home on a day-to-day basis, and we have become more aware of how potentially bad our in-home Wi-Fi actually might be. And it's more often than not when you get on a call, a Zoom call or a Skype call or this webinar where you hear, glitchiness in the voice or there's a freeze in the video. And a lot of the times it's because the Wi-Fi in your home really isn't up to snuff to take, for you to be able to leverage the internet access that you have coming into your home, and it freezes and it slows down. And so having a great solution in your home has been made more aware now in order to do that business on a day-to-day basis. And then last but not least, 50% of SMBs will adopt a cloud-first approach when sourcing software infrastructure platforms by 2021. Again, this number, I believe, is actually probably going to increase as well. And really because we are so reliant on cloud services today, made more aware because of the pandemic. In fact, we wouldn't be able to conduct business on a normal day-to-day basis if we didn't have things like Office 365 or a Dropbox or Zoom or GoToWebinar in order to have communication like this. And we're thankful for those services, but we're also thankful for services like Disney Plus and Hulu and YouTube, where we utilize their cloud services, and that helps us get through the in-between times of working. So all of these numbers are still very relevant, and technology is still pushing this forward in order to solve those challenges that they have, right? So these are what small business owners are looking for. These are conversations that you would have, and ultimately the challenges come down to, okay, do I need to keep up with the latest technology? Because if you are constantly having to replace equipment, regardless if it's sized appropriately for the business, that gets extremely expensive. And generally, when we deal with enterprise class hardware, usually it has an enterprise, cost associated with it. And a lot of the times there's enterprise cost, the enterprise hardware has the reliability that a small business needs, but it's got way more features and way more functionality than what a small business would ever be able to utilize. So how do we do a great product that comes in a reliable fashion, but also has the feature sets, for small businesses to utilize? The benefit of having a feature set and a reliable product is we can come in at a more budget conscious price point. And ultimately, that's from a small business perspective where every dollar counts. We need to make sure that we come in at a very budget-minded cost. And I think we have delivered that with InstantOn, which is pretty awesome. Developing an easy way of adding security functionality, making complex networks easy. If I have a conversation with anybody, off the street or in a store, I can talk to them about Wi-Fi and ask them about their experience about Wi-Fi. But if I say, hey, how's your Wi-Fi security? I'm probably going to get a blank stare back in my face with most of the people that I ask, right? I'm going to get the one person that understands it, but for most people, they don't really understand how Wi-Fi can be secure or not secure. All they know is they connect, and if they have a really good connection, it tends to work well. But when we're dealing with Wi-Fi security, since there's a lack of awareness, things are vulnerable at that point in time. And we have more devices connecting onto the network than we ever did before. We have more business devices connecting onto the network than we ever had before. And it's absolutely crucial that we are able to deploy security on our Wi-Fi networks, not only in a secure manner, I mean, that kind of goes without saying, but in a way that is easy to implement. And then last but not least, it doesn't matter about any of the features we talk about today. If the hardware does not stay up and running for you to use the network, that's ultimately the goal here, right? Is to make sure that we're able to utilize the Wi-Fi and the wired networks to be able to have great connectivity, then it doesn't matter. We want to make sure that the hardware we're deploying is reliable and you can rely on it regardless of the situation. So how are we going to solve a lot of those challenges? And it really comes down to our differentiators. There's a lot of other vendors in this space that we compete with, and even though they all produce wired switches and wireless access points, the differentiators is really what's going to set us apart. And really it comes down to simplicity. I've already touched base on this a little bit. In fact, simplicity is one of the key pillars around InstantOn. We want to make sure that you don't have to be a network engineer to set it up. In fact, if you're used to deploying other kinds of technology like physical security or surveillance or point of sale, InstantOn is perfect for you as a partner because it is extremely easy to get up and running. You don't have to be a network engineer to get these devices up and running. We also support mesh connectivity. So InstantOn, so from a scalability perspective, will support up to 25 InstantOn devices per site. That's either a switch or a access point, and they can all be physically hardwired to the network, but we also support mesh connectivity, and that's where you're connecting two access points together wirelessly to extend your network coverage. I go a little bit more in depth on that webinar we did previously, so go check that out. But mesh really is a great way of extending coverage in your building without having to run cable. In a home environment, it's a perfect solution because most people tend not to want to run cable in their home, and we have the ability of doing that with InstantOn. Extremely fast and extremely quick. In fact, all of our InstantOn access points include built-in Bluetooth radios. We take advantage of that Bluetooth radio that is in our access points, and we speak to the one that's in your phone, and we can actually provision these access points, whether they're wirelessly connected or connected wired through an Ethernet switch over the air without having to know things like an IP address or configuring your network interface card on your computer. Everything happens over Bluetooth. We have great security built in. This is another pillar when we're dealing with InstantOn, is that we want to make sure that security, like I mentioned earlier, is proper and good for the environment that it's going into, but is easy to implement. And we've done that with a simple button. We can enable guest access with proper security policies put in place, so that way guests won't be able to get access to employee devices. We've added things like time range profiles. So if you only want wireless networks to be enabled from 9 to 5 and turn off at 5, we can have that happen as well. And on top of that, we have something called content category filtering. So if you want to block things like explicit content on your wireless network, or gaming websites on your wireless network, or shopping on your wireless network, you can do that on a per wireless network basis. Support is absolutely huge in this space. In fact, this is one of the biggest differentiators we have, is that every single InstantOn product that we offer comes with 90 days of phone support included in the box. So that way, if you have any issues while deploying, you can pick up the phone and speak to somebody on the other end with Aruba, and we can get those questions answered for you. We have 1-year hardware support on the access points. We actually have a limited lifetime warranty on our switches. Those can be extended for up to 3 years for our access points and up to 5 years for our switches. Now, this is absolutely huge as well. I mentioned cloud management and the benefits that we have of being able to configure and manage your networks from anywhere in the world through an app on your phone or through a desktop portal. Generally, cloud services come with fees, but our InstantOn solution has no subscription cost, no licensing whatsoever. So it is a completely subscription-less solution, no licensing, no extra cost. Everything is included with the cost of the hardware initially, with no reoccurring fees associated with it. In fact, InstantOn has the ability of managing up to 150 sites per login. So you can actually manage multiple locations, again, with no licensing. And then last but not least, if you've never heard of Aruba, Aruba has been around for a very long time. We started back in 2002, and we've been doing Wi-Fi. And we support actually some of the largest Wi-Fi networks in the world, and really be all of the engineering that we have developed and learned, the lineage that we have coming out through those 17, 18 plus years now, is now been put into a product specifically designed for small business. So all of the hardware is engineered right from our enterprise line of access points. So you're going to get great quality of hardware, great software, all around support, backed by an enterprise company. In fact, Gartner, if you're familiar with them, has rated us as a leader in the enterprise wireless and wired market now for over 14 years in a row. So we definitely understand what makes a good network work. All right, let's jump into the new hardware. Really, the reason for this webinar today. The biggest change we have in the lineup right now is the brand new AP22. And if you're familiar with our access point lineup, I'm going to show you guys what they all look like together. But we've had access points now for a little while. In fact, the InstantOn was launched in July of last year. So we've had it now for about a year and a half on the market. And we announced some great access points to support that. But this is an addition to that. It's not replacing any access point in the lineup, but this is just an additional access point. And what's really awesome about the AP22 is it supports Wi-Fi 6. And from a small business perspective, we are the first vendor to release a Wi-Fi 6 access point onto the market. But what is also great about our access point in particular is that it's certified by the Wi-Fi Alliance. And if you're not familiar with why that's important, or may not even be aware of what certification even means, well, when we say we are certified by the Wi-Fi Alliance, that means we've actually sent our access point to the Wi-Fi Alliance, and it has gone through testing to ensure that the Wi-Fi that these access points produce is exactly to the standard of what the Wi-Fi Alliance says it should be. The reason why that's important is because ultimately that's going to give you a better interoperability with the devices that are going to be connecting to this Wi-Fi. Vendors have been shipping Wi-Fi 6 access point in the enterprise space and even in the consumer space now for a long time, but you may not be aware that most, specifically in the consumer space, actually will never go through certification. And a lot of the hardware that's shipped with those initial access points or routers that you might purchase at your big box store will actually never support the standard 100%. They support bits and pieces of it. And what that means is that you're going to have device connectivity issues at some point in time as the more devices come onto the market that support Wi-Fi 6. Versus with us, we have the ability of meeting the standard, and it's been certified and vetted to ensure that it's going to work like we say it's going to work. Now, Wi-Fi 6 as a whole, let's get a brief understanding of what Wi-Fi 6 actually is and why you may want to deploy Wi-Fi 6, especially if you want to future-proof your deployments. So Wi-Fi 6 has actually been a standard now for almost 2 years. So back at the end of 2018, it was finalized. It had a name of 802.11ax, which is why that's shown on the graph here. That's its technical term, but the Alliance deemed that Wi-Fi 6 was a little bit more recognizable than the technical term. 802.11ac, which has been now around for over 7 years, is now known as Wi-Fi 5. So, a little bit easier nomenclature associated with that. Now, the benefit of AX or Wi-Fi 6 is it really has a focus on efficiency. And what I mean by that is if I take it for an example, the way Wi-Fi 5 or AC has worked previously, if you remember when you were kids, in a forest and you were playing hide and seek or whatever the case may be, maybe you were, you had walkie-talkies in your hand and you were trying to communicate back and forth. Well, the way Wi-Fi 5 and previous works is that when you held down, the button on the walkie-talkie to talk, and you would say your message to the friend that you have on the other side of the woods so they would hear you, at the end of your message, you'd have to say the word over in order for the your friend on the other side of the forest to be able to know you're done talking before they can actually push the button down to talk. If you both push the button down at the same time, neither one of your messages would go through. So one person at one end would have to wait until the other person's done talking, say over, and then they could talk. Now, regardless of how much information you have to send, over that walkie-talkie transmission, only one device or one person, in essence, can communicate at any given time. So what's crazy is that, well, not crazy, just the way the technology works, but when you think about it, if I was able to slow down time enough, just like this walkie-talkie situation, if one device is communicating, every other device on the network has to stop communicating. They have to be quiet, just like the two-way radio situation. So what happens is it happens so quickly that we all appear to be connected at any given time, but it's not extremely efficient. I can only have one conversation at any given time. Well, with AX or Wi-Fi 6, I have the ability now of supporting multiple conversations at a time. So essentially, I have multiple two-way radio conversations going on, which allows me to support a significantly higher number of devices. And with the AP22, we're able to support 4 times the amount of conversations than we were with AC. So now when we're dealing with the amount of devices we're bringing onto the network, think about things like vacuum cleaners and light switches and refrigerators. I have the ability of supporting more devices. There's less congestion. The experience is significantly greater. And as more devices come onto the networks that support Wi-Fi 6, the AP22 is going to perform even better than when you initially purchased it, because more devices are going to support a lot of the cool technology that surrounds Wi-Fi 6, which is pretty awesome. Now here is where the AP22 sits within the lineup. It's kind of in between the AP12 and the AP15. It's great for restaurants, for home environments, for office areas. Really good option, especially if you have a customer that's interested in Wi-Fi 6 and they want to future-proof their deployments for the next 3 or 4 years. Getting into Wi-Fi 6 today really is a great option for them. It joins the AP11D, which is our hospitality access point, has ports on the bottom of it, as well as the AP17, which is our outdoor access point. And again, I mentioned earlier, a lot of businesses are utilizing outdoor Wi-Fi connectivity to provide great user experience for guests that are waiting, or outdoor seating areas for restaurants. They need to scan the menu, the QR code to get access to the menu. Having great outdoor access is needed now as well. So we really are happy with the overall lineup today. It's well-rounded, having Wi-Fi 6, again, being the first vendor to support that in the small business segment, as well as being the only vendor to have a Wi-Fi 6 certified access point in this segment. Now, I did want to mention our switches as well, which we announced over the summertime. So the switches offer the same simplicity and the functionality of our cloud management solution for wired devices. Our access points have the ability of being plugged into a networking switch, and they all support power over Ethernet from an access point perspective. So you can have your data and power going over the same Ethernet cabling, which makes it a lot easier to deploy for low voltage cabling. Now, from our switch perspective, the models that we currently have, we have 3 port configurations, an 8 port, a 24, and a 48 port option. You can choose that port configuration with power over Ethernet or without power over Ethernet. So depending on your needs, if you need it, if you need PoE or if you don't. And if you do purchase a model with power over Ethernet, then all of your ports will be lit up for power over Ethernet. And then they all include SFP uplinks. So the 8 port models include 2 SFP uplinks, and then the 24 and 48 port models include 4 SFP plus uplinks. These can all be managed through our app on your phone or through the desktop web portal. You have the ability of putting VLANs on these switches, supporting different connectivity options through our SFP ports, supports radius functionality, which is pretty awesome. But really, ultimately, this is providing you a fully managed switch solution in the cloud, along with our access points to get better visibility of all your connected devices. And again, these have a limited lifetime warranty associated with them. Just from a scalability perspective with InstantOn, real quick, I do want to touch on a few notes here. Again, InstantOn supports 25 InstantOn devices per site. So you can manage up to 150 sites within the InstantOn portal or the application on your phone. So scalability is pretty huge. InstantOn is designed for small businesses. So we consider a small business to be 99 users and less. And a little bit more math for you today. I know it could be early for some of you guys, but we really consider a user having around 5 devices. So we can easily support a network with 500 devices that's been fully deployed. 500 endpoint devices. We support up to 8 wireless networks per site. So you can actually have a wireless network for your employees, a wireless network for your guests. You can have one for contractors, for home automation devices, IoT, and you can segment them completely from a network perspective. So you can create that home automation network or that IoT network, and that network won't have any access at all to your family network, for example. We support great wireless encryption. We support WPA3, which for those on the call may not be aware, but Aruba actually invented WPA3. It's now an open standard and any vendor can utilize it. In fact, it's part of the Wi-Fi 6 standard, but it is part of our full lineup of access points. And WPA3 is built into every single one of our APs. Again, 1-year hardware warranty for the APs, limited lifetime for the switch, and we have 90 days of phone support. So great offering with all of our products. All right, so real briefly, I'm going to go over the application. I have just a handful of minutes before I hand back over to Austin. But just to show you guys what the application actually looks like, I have a very simple deployment with an AP22 and a switch. The application is loaded up into 4 different quadrants. I have my networks quadrant in the upper left, my applications quadrant in the lower left, my clients connected, how many clients are on, and then the devices quadrant in the lower right-hand corner. If I click on my networks, I have my InstantOn network created. I can add another network simply by hitting that plus button and walking through the steps of creating another network. If I just have a wired network VLAN that I need to add, I can add that here as well. If I select wireless, I have the ability of filling out all the information. I can make this a guest network. I can segment the traffic. I can even enable the captive portal that's built into InstantOn. That way you can brand the, when a guest accesses the network, you can brand that splash page that pops up with the business information, which is pretty cool. I'm going to select back and I'm going to show you what client's connected in the upper right-hand corner. That's my iPad. It's been connected for about an hour. It gives you information like the IP address, the MAC address, how it's connected with what encryption, which AP, how it's connected, Wi-Fi 6 in this case, 5 gig. I can click on the little pie chart down here with the data, and it'll show me exactly what this iPad has been doing. The category that it's doing a lot in is streaming, 831 megabytes. And as you see, YouTube, it's playing a YouTube video right now just to get some data in the application for you to see what that looks like. I'm going to back out here and go to the main screen. And then the last section I'm going to show you is the device section. If I click on that, you see I have my access point and the switch loaded up in here. If I select the switch, it'll give me information around the switch, like my total power budget, how much power is being consumed. This is an 8-port switch that I'm utilizing, so it gives me a nice graph of all 8 ports, what ports connected to the internet, what ports handing out PoE, and I have the ability of setting up link aggregation. I can configure radius settings, as well as associate which VLAN belongs to each port, or if I want to associate all VLANs to a specific port, I have the ability to do that. So it's laid out really nicely. Again, our app and our web portal are feature parity. You don't have to worry about losing any features going with one or the other. But overall, everything is extremely simple. We've really done a great job of making network configurations as simple as possible for our small business and home users for InstantOn. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Austin, and Austin's going to be going over some promotions and tools for you.
Thanks, Jason, very much for the overview. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. We really appreciate you joining today. So just for a few minutes, I wanted to spend some time talking about some of our promotions that we have currently available for all of our partners selling Aruba InstantOn solutions. So Jason mentioned some of the key features and technology that we put into the solution, and how it really does stand apart from the rest. And we want to make sure that when we're working with our partner community, that we are also standing out from the rest from a promotions perspective as well. So we put a few things in place that we can now offer you. And next slide, please, Jason. So Pathways Engage and Grow is a new portal that is available to any of our partners, authorized or non-authorized, to be able to go and via a single sign-in learn more about our solutions, and also redeem points. So essentially, every time you sell one of our solutions, if you purchase from Microcom, you can go in and enter the customer information, what you sold, how many products that you sold. Once we validate that, you'll receive $10 per unit sold through any of our InstantOn solutions. So whether it be a switch or any of the access points within the family, each of them are eligible for a $10 spiff per unit sold for a maximum of 100 units sold per quarter. So it's definitely a nice incentive to add on to your already existing margin in the line. So definitely take advantage of that. It's uspathways.engageandgrow.com. We'll also send out this deck after the presentation to Julie, who can distribute it to you. If you have any more questions about that, just reach out to Microcom and we can get them that information. Next slide. We also have partner sales training tutorials available in bite-sized forms. So if you visit our InstantOn tutorial page that's on our external partner portal that will give you access to, you have the ability to reference on-demand videos and view those and take some training that will give you more information around our solution, so that it will give you all of the necessary tools and ammunition that you need to be able to speak intelligently to our solution with your customer base. Next slide. And then finally, we've created the ArubaInstantOn.com Learn, Engage, and Grow. And this is a place where you can learn more around our solution or more about our solution. And we have product videos here. We have short quizzes and training videos that will give you more information around our solution, how to position it in the market, and why it's the solution that's best for your customers. You can also request more information here around promotions and marketing assets, and you can download those directly from the site via direct download by entering your email information. And then we also link to our YouTube page that also has additional marketing content that you can hyperlink to any of your websites or that you can share with your customers. Also, any additional promotions or marketing bundles that are available will also be added to this site from quarter to quarter, and will be available for your viewing pleasure and reference as needed. And with that, I believe that's the end of our presentation, and I'll turn it back over to Julie for any questions that might have come up during the presentation.
Thank you, Jason and Austin, for that wonderful presentation. And yes, it looks like we've got some questions here for you. Let's go ahead and get started with the first one. The question here is, are there any monthly charges for InstantOn? For example, is there an elite version that one could pay for that would include absolutely everything?
So there is no licensing at all with InstantOn. Everything is included with that hardware cost. So you can manage up to 150 sites all through cloud management in the application without a single fee whatsoever. So we definitely, you get the full InstantOn experience without any additional cost, which is pretty awesome.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Jason, because you did mention that, but of course, you know, the question still arrived.
Sure.
Next question here. Yeah. Next question here for you. What would you say is the go-to for a home user trying to set up their internet?
Yeah, so if you're looking at really expanding your Wi-Fi coverage, getting good speed functionality, you know, a great option today, you know, of course, the AP22 we talked about earlier would be great for if you're looking at getting the latest and greatest technology, but our AP12 is also a great option. And if you don't have a whole lot of devices that are connecting, you know, an AP11 would be great as well. So the AP11 is the most cost-effective solution. Generally, what I would recommend most home environments is about an AP every 1,000 square feet of a home. And that usually provides pretty good coverage. So if you have, you know, a 2,000 square foot house, that's going to be about 2 APs, 3,000, 3 APs, and so on and so forth. But you can mesh those together wirelessly, so you don't have to worry about running cable between them, which is great.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason. Regarding the 90-day phone support, I believe you mentioned, and if you could touch base on this, there's an option to purchase or to obtain a 365-day phone support system.
Yeah, great question. So we have an additional 3-year support offering, which extended out to 3 years of phone support, as well as 3 years of next business day replacement for that hardware on the AP side. And then on the switch side, we actually have not only the 3-year, but we also have a 5-year offering. So depending on, you know, how much support you need, 3 years on the AP versus 3 and 5 on the switches, we definitely can support your deployment for as long as you need. So great value added to that solution if you do need that phone support and next business day replacement. It's very, very cost effective too. So make sure you contact Microcom around the pricing for that.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason. Next question here for you. You talked about warranties and an option to extend devices. Can you touch base a little bit more on that?
This sounds like it's the Similar question. So yeah, we have the the APs can be extended out to 3 years in total for support, and then the switches would be 3 or 5 year. They come standard with a 1-year hardware warranty on a switch on an AP, and the switch comes with a limited lifetime warranty standard.
Thank you. Yes, you did clarify that. Next question here is regarding replacement for any hardware devices or perhaps repairs. What is the lead time that we can expect for any type of replacement?
So that's a great question, right? So generally we're looking at if you don't have an additional support offering, one of the 3 or the 3 and 5 year on the switch that we've talked about already, generally it's around 10 days or so. And I will say the benefit of our solution is we actually pay shipping both ways. A lot of our competitors will actually require you to pay to ship the product out to them. But we'll actually send you a shipping label, and so you can get the product back to us if it requires to be replaced. But if you have one of the 3 or the 3 and 5 year on the switch, it's next business day. So you'll get, you make a, depending on what time you call the previous day, you'll get one shipped out that day and in your mailbox on the next day, which is pretty awesome. So it even adds more value to that service contract.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason, for that. Next question here for you. Regarding the mesh setup of the AP22, will it degrade or slow down the speed for each hop of the access point?
Yes, most definitely. Yeah. So and that's really how mesh technology works, is it's connecting and it's carrying all that signal with all the devices that it's connecting with it as well. So, generally every single hop that you create will cut the throughput in around a half. So just from a scalability perspective, InstantOn supports 1 hardwired connected device out to 8 wireless connected devices. And we support up to 2 hops. So depending on your deployment and your need, having no connectivity in an area where now you do, even though it's going to be slower, is generally better than having no connectivity at all. So you would really need to adjust based off of where you need connectivity and what you're doing in that part of the building. But we scale pretty high when it comes to mesh. In fact, the AP22 is a great solution for mesh, but if you're going to be primarily doing mesh and it's business critical, look at the AP15. It's the fastest access point in the lineup, and will give you the overall best mesh performance. Great question.
Thank you so much, Jason. Next question here for you. Do you have any compatibility issues between different brands when using your switch?
Do you mean like, I might need some more clarification. If we're talking about, devices you plug into the switch, we don't. We support all the IEEE standards needed for, Ethernet connectivity. No issues at all with devices getting plugged into them. I might need some more clarification on what they mean by that.
No problem. Thank you, Jason. I believe you clarified. Next question here for you. Can you tell us where Aruba InstantOn products are manufactured?
Yeah, so pretty much all of the APs are manufactured in China, and I believe the switches as well, but it may be in Singapore or possibly Taiwan. Austin, do you know where the switch is manufactured?
Switches are Taiwan, I believe.
Taiwan. Okay, yeah, Taiwan.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Austin, for answering all of those questions for us here today. And thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar. And if anyone has any further questions, please feel free to contact your sales rep or email us at sales@microcomtech.com. And if you wish to view any of the products mentioned or shown here today, please visit us at www.microcom.us. And please remember, this webinar presentation has been recorded and will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so you can view it again. Thank you so much, Austin and Jason, for your time and all of your valuable information. We greatly appreciate it. And until next time, everybody have a fantastic day.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.